Hello everyone, I am Matt Williamson. How are you today? Probably a little better than I sound. I am fighting a pretty decent cold here. Last day or two, hopefully I'm fine by Monday, Tuesday, whatever. You know, nobody cares. That's all right. Here we go. Now, I want to talk about a lot of Arthur Smith stuff, some trends, heavy Steeler stuff here, of course. So how about this? I mean, any one of you that have been listening to me for years knows I was highly critical of the Steelers for not using enough play action. Now, it came to, my attention that Ben wasn't big on it. Fine. Cater to your quarterback. When I heard that, I'm like, okay, cool. Not a big deal. But there were numerous young quarterbacks since then, and they still use play action so little. I mean, across the board, I'm almost certain, I didn't look it up because I think it's 100% true. All 32 teams generate more yards per play off play action than not. It's a cheat code. I don't think the discrepancy is as wide as it was 5 years ago because the league is caught up a little, but still, it is basically a cheat code. You are bonkers not to use it more. So along those lines, 66 of the Steelers' pass attempts last year, 66 came off play action. Over 17 games. That's not very much. In contrast, Atlanta used play action on dropbacks 133 times. Basically double. Now, I think you guys know that Atlanta's offense was the run heaviest team in the league in terms of run pass percentage. But the Falcons, believe it or not, did throw the football more than the Steelers. The Falcons threw the ball 530 times. They ran more plays. The Steelers threw the ball 506 times. So 24 more, bad math by me, 24 more pass attempts for the Falcons, but still had 133 play action attempts versus 66. Along those lines, I knew the Steelers were low in pass attempts, but the only teams in the league that threw fewer pass attempts than the Steelers were the Niners and Ravens, which might shock you. People think best teams in the league are throwing the ball over the field. No, but also I'm sure a high percentage of those runs came in fourth quarters with leads. And the Titans. Were a bad team. They frankly had probably the worst offensive line in the league. Their protection was horrible. They had quarterback questions too. So the Steelers were a little more like the Titans than they were the Ravens or Niners, though, in terms of the four teams that threw the ball the fewest. Needless to say, it would blow my doors off if the Steelers are not league average or way better, way higher in play action attempts. It makes no sense to me if they're not. The coordinator very much stresses it and does it well and does it in a variety of ways, from behind center, off jet motion. There's a lot of different ways you can do play action. And taking it up a step, I'm not going to bore you with the numbers. You guys sometimes criticize me. I hit you too hard with numbers. But I can promise you, if you look at Russell Wilson's career when using play action, is excellent. It's very, very good. He sells it well. They also had Marshawn Lynch, but Steelers are going to have a legit running game. And going back to Arthur Smith, whenever they had Derrick Henry and Tannehill in that group in Tennessee, they were lethal off play action. Now, I'm not saying the Steelers running game will be good as Marshawn Lynch in Legion of Doom or Derrick Henry recently with the Titans, but I bet it's a top 10 one. And there's also many, many studies, which I mostly believe, I don't 100% believe, that prove play action is still highly, highly effective, even if you don't have a dominant running game. Now, I do believe those numbers. There's been a lot of studies, so I trust them. Still, I think there's a human element to, they just gave the ball to Derrick Henry 5 times in a row, and I'm a linebacker. I'm going to take a step forward off play action. You know what I mean? Like, I do think there's a human element to playing defense against it that clearly exists. But Russell Wilson's numbers when using play action, comparatively speaking to other quarterbacks of this era, are very high, are very good. I will destroy this offense if we don't see a more dosage of play action. I've been preaching for it for 6 years, if not more. Gave him a pass with Ben. did not give him a pass with the other quarterbacks. And you got to help your quarterback. I mean, and the way this thing is structured, I think play action will be an absolute staple, and that makes me very happy. BetOnline is your number one source for all your summer sports this season with Major League Baseball, golf, and many other sports. All the latest stats, news, and scores available to follow your favorite teams. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest team matchups, player props, and odds on just about every sport out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Another short little topic that's along those lines, but it is Arthur Smith and Steeler driven heavily right now. I think there's a linebacker shortage in the league. There's Fred Warner, there's Roquan Smith, and then there's 12 other good ones, including Patrick Queen, we think. But linebackers are somewhat at a premium now, and it's kind of a transitional phase in linebackerdom in the history of them. I've told you this for years. Bush is a great example, but there's 1,000 others. Highly drafted linebackers that are based off traits and speed and combine and et cetera like that often get mutilated early in their career. Now you got to think, most defenses now are playing too high and play action and all the Shanahan stuff and and I'm talking about in the passing game. Passing game pretty much only here. All the crossers and tight ends that can run and McCaffreys and Kamara that cause problems. So I think the national, media you'll start hearing this more and more. Attack the linebackers. So if you just think about it, in a stack 4-3, an old school 4-3, those 3 true off the ball linebackers on the field. And very few teams have 3 good ones. I mean, very, very few teams, maybe none, have 3 linebackers that are in their best 11 defensive players. Okay? The league lives in nickel with 2 linebackers. I'm not sure most teams have 2 true off-the-ball linebackers. I'm going to talk about TJ Watt. Off-the-ball linebackers that are 2 of their best 11 players. So people have gone to big nickel. They've manufactured it. But where am I going with this? Well, maybe it's a smidge late, not nearly as late as the play action world, but the Steelers are now very ahead of the curve on that. Mention Queen, but the other 3 guys, assuming Holcomb's healthy, or even if he isn't for quite some time, that is a deep, stacked linebacker room. And I think you could make the argument, we'll get there, I'm not saying this is the case this second, that 2 and maybe 3, if Wilson's as good as I think he is, Steeler linebackers are amongst their 11 best defensive players. So if you can play with a lot of these guys on the field that can cover as well as play the run, it's a massive advantage. Like, I'm not suggesting, we haven't seen this, I'm not suggesting that 3 true off-the-ball linebackers are going to be on the field for the Steelers. But if you're very comfortable with 2, and I've told you a million times, the Steelers have been at the bottom of the league in nickel with 2 linebackers on the field forever, which has made me crazy. I have to think that evaporates very, very soon. If you can be a strength with 2 and even rotate some of those guys in, it's a massive advantage. The middle of the field is ripe for the taking. That's where I'm good to sum it up. The middle of the field is ripe for the taking right now in the NFL. And the best play callers out there are exploiting it like crazy. Now, there's more reasons for this, but even this example, Pat Mahomes threw deep way less than any point of his career. Still won the Super Bowl. Attacking the middle of the field. Now, they're going to change that. They went and got Marquise Brown and Xavier Worthy that are speedsters. They realize they need to throw deep more. But this is also an Arthur Smith thing, is attacking linebackers. You're going to see it from both sides. Well, what's a good way to attack linebackers and to get bad linebackers on the field? Use a lot of tight ends. That's a big reason that Shanahan has Juszczyk. He'll play McCaffrey, Juszczyk, Kittle, Debo, Ayuk. Well, it's hard not to have multiple linebackers on the field against that fivesome. Well, I think you're going to see a lot of that with the Steelers as well. They don't have a Juszczyk, but I do think you're going to see a lot of tight ends on the field. Now, you fantasy folks will be like, man, he used Pitts really poorly last year. I don't think he did. That's probably a whole different conversation for another podcast. But he got an awful lot out of his tight end room as a whole in Atlanta between Jonnu Smith and Pitts. It was one of the most productive tight end rooms in all of football. And Jonnu Smith's a good player, you know, and Pitts was injured much of the year too. He battled through a knee injury the entire season. So I keep thinking about this tight end linebacker relationship. And maybe someone out there will steal that. I haven't heard anyone else mention it before, but hey, if you're broadcasting games, feel free, because I think this is something you should hear more about, is keeping as many linebackers on the field, because the linebackers in the league aren't very good, and attacking them with crossers or making them carry Freiermuth up the seam or whatever. I mean, there's a variety of ways to attack these guys in the passing game. And I think the Steelers on both sides of the ball as an organization, and I'm going to give Smith some credit for this, of course, are really, really well equipped to do that. Maybe even off play action. All right, folks, take care.